The night everyone ran. Strong hook, humiliation, fear, kindness. No one at the restaurant expected chaos that night. The chandeliers glowed softly above marble floors, wine glasses shimmered, and money whispered from every corner. This place was built for people who believed they owned the world. And then he walked in. The temperature dropped, not from air conditioning, but from fear. The Vampire King's son was known across the city. Not officially. Not by name. Just by reputation. A beautiful monster in an expensive suit. People said he destroyed things when he was bored. Businesses. Lives. Sometimes both. When he sat down, silence spread faster than sound. Minutes later, the first glass shattered. Then another. Wine spilled like blood across white marble as his anger exploded without warning. A complaint. A snapped finger. A plate flung across the room. Staff froze. Customers fled. Managers begged. Everyone ran. Everyone, except her. She was just a waitress. Poor. Quiet. Invisible most days. She worked double shifts and lived in a place most people pretended didn't exist. Life had already beaten her down enough that fear didn't scream anymore, it whispered. She didn't argue. She didn't beg. She didn't stare. She simply picked up a cloth and knelt down. As the vampire prince stood amid the wreckage, she cleaned the mess he made. Calm hands. Gentle movements. No hatred. No trembling. When a shard cut her finger and blood welled up, the scent hit him like fire. Hunger surged. Instinct roared. But she didn't panic. She wrapped her finger, then quietly wiped a wine stain from his sleeve. "Have a better night," she said softly. That was the moment everything broke. Not the glass. Not the plates. Him. For the first time in centuries, someone had shown him kindness without fear. And the monster had noticed. The girl who said no. The second time he entered the restaurant, it wasn't rage that followed him, it was silence. Not the panicked kind from the night before, but a tense, watchful quiet. Staff stiffened. Conversations died. Fear still clung to him like a shadow, but something had changed. He did not go to the best table. He chose the worst one, near the kitchen, where the air was warmer, louder, more human. She noticed immediately. Her hands paused mid-movement, fingers tightening around her order pad. For a brief second, something flickered across her face, not fear, but exhaustion. The kind that came from surviving too much for too long. Then she straightened her shoulders and walked toward him, just as she had before. "What can I get you?" she asked, her voice calm, professional. "Just water," he replied. No command. No cruelty. And a few minutes. She raised an eyebrow. "I'm working." "I know." There was something unsettling about the way he watched her, not like prey, not like possession, but like a question he couldn't answer. When she finally sat across from him, she did not smooth her uniform or fix her hair. She looked at him directly, waiting. "I could change your life," he said quietly. "Your debt. Your home. Your future. I could make it all disappear." She laughed softly, not amused, not bitter. "Just tired." "You already paid for what you broke," she said. "That's enough." He frowned. No one ever refused him. Humans begged. They always begged. "You don't understand," he said. "I have more than money. I have power." "That's exactly why I'm saying no," she replied. The words landed heavier than shouting ever could. She told him she wasn't a problem to be fixed. That suffering didn't make her weak. That she would rather struggle with dignity than live comfortably as something owned. Her voice shook, but she didn't back down. Not once. He felt something unfamiliar tighten in his chest. For centuries, he had ruled through fear. Controlled through dominance. He had believed kindness was a weakness humans clung to because they had nothing else. Yet here she was, poor, invisible, exhausted, standing her ground against him with nothing but conviction. "You think I pity you," he said. "I think you don't know how to help without controlling," she answered gently. "And I think that scares you." Silence stretched between them. No one had ever spoken to him like that. Not council members. Not enemies. Not even his father. She didn't hate him. She didn't worship him. She simply refused to surrender herself. When she stood to leave, he felt panic flicker, sharp and unwanted. "Why weren't you afraid of me?" he asked suddenly. She paused, her back still turned. "Because I've seen worse monsters than anger," she said. "And I learned that fear only makes them louder." Then she walked away. He remained there long after the water went untouched. That night, he realized something dangerous. He did not want to own her. He wanted to earn her respect. And for a creature born to rule through power, that desire was more terrifying than any enemy. The night the monster chose her. The city was quieter than usual that night, the kind of silence that made footsteps echo too loudly and shadows feel alive. She left the restaurant alone, as she often did, wrapping her coat tighter around herself to block out the cold. The streetlights flickered, painting the pavement in dull orange streaks. She told herself it was just another walk home. She had survived worse. Then the feeling came. That sharp, crawling sensation at the base of her neck, the certainty of being watched. Her steps quickened. The sound behind her wasn't human. Too light. Too fast. She turned, heart pounding, and froze. The figure standing a few steps away wore a grin that didn't belong on a human face. His eyes were wrong. His presence felt wrong. "You smell brave," he said, his voice thick with hunger. She backed away, keys clenched between her fingers, fear finally breaking through her calm. Before she could scream, he lunged. The world exploded. The grip on her wrist vanished as if torn away by the wind. She stumbled, falling hard against the pavement. When she looked up, she saw him, the vampire king's son, standing between her and the creature. But he was no longer pretending. His eyes burned red, glowing like embers in the dark. His movements were impossibly fast, impossibly strong. The night echoed with a sound like cracking stone as he slammed the attacker into the wall. Fangs flashed. Rage poured from him in waves, ancient and terrifying. "You touched her," he growled, his voice no longer human. The creature begged. It didn't matter. When it was over, the alley fell silent again. She sat there, shaking, staring at him. This was the truth. No rumors. No disguises. Just the monster everyone feared. He turned toward her slowly, horror crossing his face as he realized what she had seen. "I won't hurt you," he said, stepping back. "I swear." Her voice trembled. "What are you?" He hesitated, then answered honestly. "A vampire." She should have run. She didn't. Her eyes dropped to his side, where dark blood soaked through his shirt. "You're hurt," she said. "It will heal," he replied, though his breath was strained. She stood on unsteady legs and walked toward him. He stiffened, fighting instinct, fighting hunger, fighting himself. When she pressed a cloth against his wound, her hands were shaking, but they did not pull away. "You saved me," she whispered. "That's what matters." No one had ever touched him like that. Not with care. Not without fear. In that moment, something ancient inside him shifted. The monster who ruled through power found himself kneeling in silence before a girl who had nothing, and yet possessed everything he lacked. As they stood together under the broken streetlight, both bleeding, both exposed, he understood the truth. The world would never leave her alone again. And neither would he. When kings begin to watch. After that night, nothing felt ordinary again. She returned to work, to crowded buses and aching feet, to counting tips and pretending the world had not cracked open in a dark alley. But the feeling followed her, the sense of being watched, not by danger, but by something vast and unseen. The city moved on, unaware that it now sat beneath the attention of monsters. He did not leave her side. Not openly. Not obviously. But he was always there. A presence just beyond sight. A shadow that moved when she moved. When strangers lingered too long, they changed direction. When danger brushed close, it vanished. She never saw him, but she felt him, like a silent wall between her and the world. She confronted him one night outside her building. "You can't follow me forever," she said, arms crossed, exhaustion etched into her face. "I didn't ask for a guardian." "I know," he replied quietly. "That's why I don't show myself." She searched his face, looking for arrogance, for control. She found none. Only restraint. Only fear, not of her, but for her. "You changed everything," he admitted. "You saw me, and stayed." She shook her head. "I didn't stay because you're powerful. I stayed because you protected someone weaker than yourself." The words lingered. Above them, far beyond the city lights, a far more dangerous presence was paying attention. The vampire king did not rule through noise or violence. He ruled through awareness. And awareness had brought him to one conclusion: his son was vulnerable. Not because of enemies. Because of a human girl. The attack had not gone unnoticed. The challenger who had touched her had violated an unspoken law: no human was to be harmed without consequence. And now, ancient forces stirred. Lines were being drawn. Decisions weighed. One evening, the son felt it, a pressure in the air, heavy and cold. His father was watching. The vampire king did not appear. He did not need to. His message arrived in silence, in instinct, in the tightening of fate itself. Protect her, or lose her. The son understood. For the first time, his power was not a privilege. It was a responsibility. And she, still human, still poor, still underestimated, had become the axis upon which immortal politics now turned. She sensed it too, though she didn't understand it. "You're carrying something heavy," she said to him softly as they stood beneath the city lights. "Whatever it is, don't let it turn you into the thing everyone expects you to be." He looked at her then, not as a monster, not as a prince, but as a man standing at the edge of a choice that would define eternity. "I won't," he promised. And somewhere beyond the night sky, a king waited to see if his son would keep his word. The crown chooses kindness. The night everything changed was quiet. No sirens. No screams. No shattered glass. Just a stillness so deep it felt like the world was holding its breath. She felt it first, the air thickening, the city dimming as if something ancient had stepped closer. He stiffened beside her, eyes darkening, posture straightening. This time, he didn't hide it. "He's here," he said softly. Before fear could take hold, the presence settled, not violent, not cruel, but absolute. The vampire king did not appear in flesh, yet his authority filled the space around them like gravity. It pressed against the sun's spine, ancient and unyielding. "You have broken tradition," the voice echoed without sound. "You have exposed yourself. You have chosen a human." She felt it then, an invisible weight brushing past her, examining her not as prey, not as weakness, but as truth. The son stepped forward. "She is under my protection," he said. Silence followed. The vampire king had ruled for centuries through fear and balance. Mercy was dangerous. Attachment was weakness. Yet what stood before him was undeniable, a son who had not become weaker, but stronger. Why her? The voice asked. He did not speak of destiny or fate. She showed me who I was, he answered. And who I could be. The presence lingered, then shifted. The test was not of power. It was of character. When the pressure finally lifted, she realized she had been holding her breath. The city returned to normal. Lights flickered back to life. The night released its grip. It's over, he said quietly. She looked at him. What happens now? He hesitated. I step into the role I was born for. And me? He met her eyes, not with command, not with promise, but with choice. You walk away, he said. If you want. I won't follow. I won't watch. I won't cage you. The silence stretched between them. Then she smiled, small, tired, real. You finally learned, she said. Power means nothing if it doesn't protect what's fragile. She took his hand. Not because he was a prince. Not because he was immortal. But because he had chosen kindness when fear would have been easier. From that night on, the city changed in quiet ways. Predators disappeared. Exploiters lost influence. The forgotten were protected without knowing why. And the Vampire King's son became something new. A ruler who understood humanity. A monster who chose mercy. A king who was crowned not by blood or fear, but by the quiet strength of a woman who refused to run. True power is not the ability to destroy. It is the courage to protect without demanding anything in return.